I was sentenced to prison boot camp to start. Actually, the whole sentence was 9 months because they deferred the 15 years max that I could have received. And so I ended up going to prison boot camp to start. I was sentenced to 3 months there. You would think, again, reverting back to me growing up in the Seventh-day Adventist church, me growing up in a Christian household, you would think, okay, I bumped my head again, let me get my act in order. Nah, not the case. I got out after doing 9 months, and I was right back in the streets, right back doing the same old dirt, right back to robbing people, right back to smoking. Into 2001, I went to the penitentiary. This time I went to prison I was sentenced to 5 years in prison. The judge actually wanted to give me 10 years, but my court-appointed lawyer got it down to 5 years. I was working for a moving company, right? Now in this application, I actually lied on it, right? I put on my application, I had never been convicted of a felony because I knew what just happened at that Home Depot trying to get there. So I lied. My background check came back. They hired me before the background check had come back. When it came back, a few days after I got hired, they saw it. They let me work the entire day. They had the paperwork from that morning. They let me work the entire day. I get back to the office after that day, and they called me in the office, and it was like, we gotta fire you because you lied on your application. You have been convicted of this, that, and the third. So it's like, there's so many things that can be up against you. It's like, okay, you know what? I might as well just go back to the lifestyle that I used to live. It makes more sense. This is what I can do. This is what I know to do. This is what everything around me allows me to do. This is where I'm at. At 19 years old, I ended up getting charged with what was called engaging in criminal activities. What I had done was I actually robbed a Subway, and I tried to rob a bank. Me and my homeboy, we had been drinking all day long. For like the last week, I was gassing his head up. I'm like, hey man, we're gonna break into this bank, man. We're gonna get $75,000. Right, so we there probably like 20, 30 minutes trying to pick the lock. We get in the bank, and as we're in the bank, literally within maybe 30 seconds or less, police cars were lining up outside. My friend, when we come running out, he goes one way, I go another way. I had glanced out of my back window. I didn't raise it up, but what I did was I looked as far as I could out the side of my window on both sides, but there was a blind spot that I couldn't see. I didn't see anybody outside that window, so I raised it up and I hopped out that window. As soon as I hopped out the window, on that blind spot, there was a police officer right there, and he put the pistol to my head, and at that point I gave up. And so I ended up going to the penitentiary. I was in 3 different prisons. I was in Huntsville, Texas, which, if you know anything about Huntsville, Texas, that's like the prison capital of Texas. I was there at an intake unit. From there, I got sent to another penitentiary, and then from there, I went to another prison. All of the prisons I was at, they were around Houston, Texas, not too far from there. So I ended up doing a little over a year, and I went before the parole board, and I made my first parole, right? Now you would think, like, how does he make parole for good behavior? You know what I'm saying? There's a bunch of individuals in there for bad behavior. Well, the thing was, like, I understood how to do my time, right? From the time I had started getting locked up, especially from 17 onward, I used to hang around a lot of older heads, being locked up. And the older guys would kind of school you, do this, do that, or whatever. The young kids, like I said earlier, all they want to do is fight. All that fighting do is just keep you there longer. I'm not built for this. I want to be up out of here so I can get back to doing whatever in the world I want to do. And so what I would do, anytime I would get locked up, I would sign up for every program that particular prison has, that jail has. I'm signing up for everything. Like when I was in prison, I signed up for the GED class. I already had my GED. I don't care. I'm signing up for it again just so I can even get out of the cell. But see, at the same time, when you go before the parole board, they're going to look at, okay, there's an individual that's actually trying to do something. It may not even be in my mind to want to do right when I get out of here. But what they're looking at is, okay, he hadn't been in any fights. He hadn't been in any trouble. He's doing this. They look at all of those things, right? And they're going to make a decision based on those. I knew that. So I'm going to sign up for everything that I can in order to look good before the parole board. So I go before the parole board. I ended up making my first parole. I did a little over a year on that 5-year sentence. So I get out. Now, you would think, again, being in the penitentiary, I've gone through the jail, through juvenile, through now the penitentiary. I just matriculated through this. Most people matriculate through school. I matriculated through the justice system. And you would think that, okay, you know, he's gonna come out, he's gonna have his head on right now. One of the things that I learned in the penitentiary, right, is how to sell drugs, right? Before I went to the penitentiary, I used to just smoke weed, drink alcohol. That's what I did. Smoke weed, drink alcohol. Chiefs, drink alcohol. That's it. You know, smoke cigarettes. But being in the penitentiary, you're literally in there with people that have like PhDs in how to move narcotics from state to state. You know, how to do all types of things with drugs. Again, yeah, they caught, yeah, they in here, but you know what I'm saying? I learned the drug game. That's where I learned. That's why I learned the weights. That's why I learned how to move drugs. I learned the drug game while I was incarcerated. All of my crimes prior to this, they all dealt with robbing something, stealing something, things like that. I got to a point where I didn't want to do that no more. You know what I'm saying? My thing now became selling drugs. So while I was in the penitentiary, I was cool with this dude from Miami. And this particular individual from Miami, he used to get kilos of cocaine from the Colombian straight off the boat. Now you may not know anything about keys of coke, weed, alcohol, any of that stuff, but let me tell you, you make a lot of money off a key of cocaine. I'm gonna just leave it like that. However, one thing that I learned about the drug game, right, from the whole war on drugs stuff, you know what I'm saying, from, you know, back in the late 80s, early 90s and all that stuff is, like when it comes to African American males or black people in general, and drugs, they gonna try to hide you for a long time. They're gonna try to put you in the penitentiary for a long time. And so I learned, if you're scared to mess with something, don't mess with it. I was scared of the time that came along with that amount of weight when it came to cocaine or heroin and the penitentiary. You get a life sentence, you know what I'm saying, off a kilo of cocaine. Let me just try to give y'all just regular old terminology. And so I was like, man, I'm not built for life. I'm not built for all them years. I'm built for like 2, 3, 4, 5 years max. That's it. You know what I'm saying? And so the dude was like, hey, you know, I'll put you down with my Colombian connect, you know, and we can move coke. So I considered it for a little bit, but I was too scared to move it. So I ended up backing out of that. But he taught me the drug game. Now, when I got out of the penitentiary, right, or before I got out of the penitentiary, I tried to transfer my parole, or I was in the process of transferring my parole from Texas to North Carolina. My parents had left Texas, they moved to North Carolina. North Carolina is two things. One, North Carolina is, in my opinion, is a lot less strict when it comes to parolees and stuff like that. Number two, when you leave the South and you sell drugs, the further you go up, in the United States, the further you go up, the higher the price the drugs are. I knew this. You know what I'm saying? So like, let's say for instance, I buy an ounce of cocaine for $400 in Texas. I come up here, even in New York, I can sell that same ounce for probably around $1,000, $2,000. The prices go up as you go further up. So in North Carolina, an ounce of cocaine will go for about $1,000, when in Texas, about $400. So the prices skyrocket the further and further you go up. And so I knew this. So I'm like, okay, go to North Carolina, connect with some people, set up shop. So I get to North Carolina after I get out. I was in Texas probably a couple more weeks, parole transfer came through. I ended up getting to North Carolina. And a few weeks after I got there, instead of messing with coke, I started transporting pounds of marijuana from Texas to North Carolina. And so there's multiple ways again to do this. You could drive from, you know what I'm saying, state to state, or however you want to do it. What we used to do is ship it through the mailing system, the UPS mailing system. So I would, we would ship the marijuana through the UPS mailing system 1 pound at a time. You could get greedy, you could send multiple pounds, but you get caught by being greedy. You know what I'm saying? I never caught a drug charge. I've been stopped with drugs on me, but never caught a drug charge or whatever. You just gotta be a little smart with it, I guess you could say. Not that I couldn't get caught, but I never did get caught selling drugs. And so we moved 1 pound at a time, 1 pound at a time. The weed would come to me, I get it, I sit in my spot, break it all the way down, I take out all the stems and seeds, take everything out, and I would bag it up in nicks, dimes, 20s, quarters. You probably don't know nothing about any of this stuff, but that's all right. There's somebody that's gonna hear this that knows exactly what I'm talking about, and they're gonna be able to identify, and they may need this information. So anyhow, I would bag it up in multiple different types of ways. It would literally take me about 2 hours to sell 1 pound of weed. You're talking about easily making $1,000 in 2 hours. Now, mind you, I'm in my early 20s, right? So let's say, for instance, you are an older individual who did everything right in life. You're trying to tell a young person that's 16, 17, 18 years old, hey, stay in school, don't sell drugs. Mind you, they can make $1,000 in 2 hours, and you over here struggling just to make ends meet. To a lot of us, that type of lifestyle, even though it's the safe, smart way, it doesn't make sense. It just doesn't make sense. What seems to make sense a lot of times is the fast money that you can get in a little bit of time. But again, there's a lot of consequences that come with it. And so I could easily make $1,000 in 2 hours. Sell a pound, go back to my spot, sit down and chill and wait for the next pound to come in the mail, hit the block, 2 hours off of it. Now, I mentioned to you consequences come with it, right? So I had an incident. Again, you would think that I would get my life together at this point, not the case. There was an incident where I was selling weed all day long, right? I'm hustling all day long, selling weed, and I had like half a pound left, I think it was. Maybe 7.5 ounces, something like that. So this dude come to my spot and was like, hey, such and such wanna buy the rest of what you have. So I'm like, okay, cool, this is what I got, you know what I'm saying, let's do it. And so me and this dude, we go down to the park. I had been at my spot all day long. He was like, hey, let's go down to the park, you know what I'm saying, to eliminate, all the traffic, because a lot of traffic had been coming through, all that day. So we go down the street to the park, you know what I'm saying, in the hood, MLK. If you know anything about any city or town, Martin Luther King Street is generally the worst, and that's where I was, on MLK, right there smack dab in the hood. And so we go down the street to the park, and the individual that he told me was going to buy the rest of the weed was not the individual that ended up showing up. The individual that showed up was this dude. His nickname was Fully Loaded. You know what I'm saying? His nickname was Fully Loaded because he was known for robbing folks. He was known for shooting folks. You know what I'm saying? All that kind of stuff or whatever. And so when I saw him come bopping down the street, you know what I'm saying, I asked the dude in the car, I'm like, man, why you bring him to me? You know what I'm saying? I don't want to deal with him. I knew not to deal with him because he was known for robbing folks. Some people, they hustle is to put the gun in your face and rob you for what they got. They call them stick-up kids. That's just some people's hustle. You know what I'm saying? And so he comes around, and I'm like, okay, let's do this deal. Maybe he's actually about, this type of business, buying the weed and everything like that. So he comes, we get out the car. I had my scale, he had his scale. So I pull out like 4 ounces. We weigh him on the scale. Everything's coming out, on his scale, it was coming out like 27 grams or whatever, and I knew his scale wasn't right because my stuff, I know what my stuff is supposed to be, 28 grams to a T. That's what it is. So I pull out my scale worked perfectly fine. Everything coming out just as it was, right? And so I'm like, okay, I done showed you this 4, right? I showed you these 4 ounces. Let me see the money for these 4. Here's the thing on the streets. When you hustling on the streets, we don't carry $100 bills. I mean, maybe like what you see on the movies, briefcases full of 100s all banded up and all that. That's when you get real top level like that, not on the street level that I'm on. You know what I'm saying? So what we deal with is a lot of 1s, 5s, 10s, and 20s. You're rarely ever gonna see anything over a $20 bill. You come to me with a $100 bill, you know what I'm saying? Like I can make change for it, but you know what I'm saying? You're not gonna have a whole stack of hundreds like that. This just don't work like that. And so For what he wanted, what I had right there, 7.5 ounces, he would have easily been able to find the money in his pocket, which would have been several $100s, but it would have been a big knot, a big wall like this, a big knotted wall like this in his pocket. There wouldn't have been no fiddling around in the pocket. You know where it's at because it's a big knot. So we standing face to face. He's not too far from me, and probably like a little arm's length from me, standing there. So he's looking at me, I'm looking at him, he's digging through his pockets. In my mind, I knew that this drug deal was about to go bad, but I couldn't move because all I could think about was, okay, if he really is about the business, you know what I'm saying, the money business for this drugs, then I'm about to get this amount of money and boom, I can go re-up and whoop-de-whoop-de-whoop. That's what I'm thinking. But I know it's about to go bad, but I just couldn't move. And so he's digging in all his pockets, front pockets, back pockets, and he's doing this multiple times, knowing this is about to go wrong. So he comes out his pocket, finally out his front right pocket, I think it was, and he puts the pistol straight to my forehead, right? You know what I'm saying? I got the gun literally right there in my face. You know, maybe for some of you guys, maybe you would have been calling on the Lord, oh Lord, save me, and all this stuff like that, you know. But again, this is what comes with the streets. You know what I'm saying? Like, I know this is part of it. You know what I'm saying? Do I want to lose my life? No. Do I want to get shot? No. Do I want to get robbed? No. But this is just a part of it. You know what I'm saying? So I didn't know what was going to transpire in the next few seconds, right? Just like 3-4 weeks prior to this, right in the same hood, right on Martin Luther King, the same hood, right down the street, this dude got robbed for, there was an altercation over $5 of weed. He got shot in the head, died instantly. You know what I'm saying? So I know anything could go down. I could easily lose my life in this situation. I ain't got no pistol on me or nothing, you know what I'm saying? And so he puts the gun to my face and was like, give me the rest of the weed. I'm like, all right, you know what I'm saying? I said some other things, but you know, I can't say that for this Christian camel. So I give him the rest of the weed that was in my book bag on my back. And so he turns me around and puts the gun to my head. You know what I'm saying? At this point, I really just say a little prayer to myself, honestly, and I'm just like, you know what I'm saying, God, just, you know, whatever it is what it is, you know what I'm saying? And so he walks me like a dog, in essence, to my car, you know what I'm saying, and has the gun to the back of my head. I don't know at this point if he was trying to pull the trigger and it just, you know, the gun jam that happens, and I done left out a whole lot of stories of, you know, stuff like that happening or whatever, but he's got the gun to the back of my head. When I get into the car, right, I put my seat all the way back, because if he starts firing, I want the bullets to go over my head, not into my head. So when I get in my car and put my seat all the way back and start mashing off, that's when I start hearing the gun going off. You know what I'm saying? It was like a while later I found out that he was actually supposed to kill me that night, you know what I'm saying? But whatever happened, gun jam, whatever it may be, you know what I'm saying, that didn't happen. And so anyhow, I get in the car, I mash out, back up the street, you know what I'm saying? He got me for the weed. Now, mind you, in the hood, everything, word passes quickly in the hood what happened. This was like late at night. Early the next morning, you know what I'm saying? Everybody I'm cool with in the hood was at my door, knocking on my door. Hey man, you know what I'm saying? I know where he be at. I got a chopper or AK-47. That's what a chopper is an AK-47. I got a chopper for you. I got a bulletproof vest. I got this gun. I got that gun. You know what I'm saying? I know where it be at. Let's go get him. You know what I'm saying? So I gotta think quick. Do I wanna take it this far? Do I wanna go get him? You know what I'm saying? Or do I want to get got in the situation, or do I leave the situation alone? You know what I'm saying? See, the thing is, if I leave the situation alone on the streets, it passes off as, okay, we can rob this individual for anything. He's not going to do nothing about it. So people are going to take you as soft, and they're going to start doing whatever. So what I did was, I talked to a couple people, right? You know what I'm saying? A couple old heads, right, that had been in the game, that, you know what I'm saying, left it all alone. And this old head was like, hey, you know what I'm saying? It is what it is, but you got out of it with your life. You know what I'm saying? There's no point in taking it further. It is what it is. So I listened to him. I had ended up, I think in that same time frame, I had got a collect call from my homeboy I grew up with that's on death row. You know what I'm saying? He's awaiting lethal injection or whatever. You know what I'm saying? He's locked up for a couple murder charges and stuff like that. Mind you, grew up Adventist too, but got heavy into the streets. And so he hit me up. And I told him what happened, and he was like, hey man, you know what I'm saying, you don't want to be where I'm at, you know what I'm saying, you don't want to be here on death row. And so I took that advice, I called my brother, And I was like, hey, this what happened. He was like, hey, life ain't a movie. You know what I'm saying? Like, you get one life. You don't get killed and you come back starring in the next role. It don't work like that. So I took all of those advices and I left it alone. You know what I'm saying? I let the situation be. I didn't retaliate on dude. But you would think, growing up Adventist, all right, you get your mind right. You know what I'm saying? You grew up in a Christian home, you grew up Adventist, get your mind right, go to church. Nah, you know what I'm saying? Still didn't get to that point, right? Because that fast money, that adrenaline rush, that lifestyle was still in me. You know what I'm saying? It was still burning inside of me. So I left the weed alone for a little bit, you know what I'm saying? But then I started back nickel and diming again, you know what I'm saying? I was back hustling, back to doing the same old things once again. Still didn't get my mind. I think at this point, I might have been like 22, 23, still out there doing what I was doing. Fast forward a little bit, this is pretty much the last 6 months of what I call my life of running from God. At this point, I was 24, I had just turned 25 years old. In a 10-year time frame, I've done a lot. I did a lot of stuff, you know what I'm saying? And when I say even in this story, can't capture it all, it can't, because it's just too much stuff, too many little details of things that I've done, things that I've been through. So I kind of give you an overview of certain things.